Good morning. Welcome to Arlington Street Church, gathered in love and service for justice and peace. Welcome to the soul of Sunday. We are Unitarian Universalists. Ours is a historic faith with a progressive theology. We affirm the worth and dignity of every being, and that we are all deeply interconnected. We are bound to one another not by creed, but by covenant. And we are all called to love with open minds, open hearts, and open hands. Whoever you are, those of all nations, all creeds, all colors, all kinds of love, you are welcome here. As we gather, we acknowledge that Arlington Street Church occupies the ancestral homeland of the Massachusetts. By making this land acknowledgement, we recognize, honor, and affirm the sovereignty of all First Nations peoples.
The lone wild bird in lofty flight is still with thee, nor leaves thy sight, and I am thine, I rest in thee. Great Spirit, come and rest in me. The ends of earth are in thy hand, the seas dark, deep, and far off land, and I am thine, I rest in thee. Great Spirit, come and rest in me.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our Zoomers. You are great. And welcome to the congregation gathered here in person. I'm Kyle Belmont. Reverend Kim and Reverend Beth are on summer sabbatical, as is Director of Music Mark David Buckles, and the Arlington Street Church Choir as well. Art and I are joined by Daniel Rosenzweig and Young Wong Cho. Thank you, friends. And a very special thanks to all our volunteers here in the sanctuary today, our tech team, our greeters, and ushers. Thank you. If you're new, we're so glad you are here. If you'd like to know more about Arlington Street, go to ascboston.org. There's a link where you can sign up for the weekly e-newsletter Snapshot. Whether you've been coming here for years or today is your first time at Arlington Street, welcome home.
A warm welcome to this morning's preacher, Kyle Belmont. He is entering his final year of study at the Boston University School of Theology and is on the path to UU ordination. He's looking forward to starting a parish-based internship in the fall of 2024. He recently completed his first unit of clinical pastoral education at the University of Vermont Medical Center in Burlington. Kyle has visited with us here at Arlington Street before, and today is his first time in our pulpit. Welcome, Kyle.
Thank you.
If you haven't already downloaded today's order of service, it's available in the chat and on the homepage at ascboston.org. For our guests here in the sanctuary, there are printed copies at the great doors. As we begin our greetings, I invite the Zoomers and those in the sanctuary with a device handy to please say hello in the chat and tell us where you're zooming in from today. And now, Rich is going to turn the camera on the incarnate congregation as we wave and smile at each other, as well as at our friends in the Zoom room. And you all in the Zoom room can wave and smile back. Hello, friends. Let's all engage that Arlington Street spirit of welcome that transcends physical distance as we greet one another heart to heart. Our opening hymn is number 298 in the gray hymnal and in the chat, Wake Now My Senses. Let's rise in body, rise in spirit, and sing together as Daniel leads us in song.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow, giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Open my heart to be a sanctuary, all made holy, loved and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
It is now time for our treasured ritual of sharing community candles of sorrow and joy. These candles were submitted on our website by the Friday evening deadline. If you didn't submit a candle and have a joy or sorrow to share this morning, please wait until the third candle is lit, the silent candle, and then type your joy or sorrow in the chat. Zoomers are invited to light silent candles at home. Those in the sanctuary are invited to light a silent candle at the table up front to the right of the Gleason podium. In addition to sharing our sorrows and joys this morning, let's reach out to one another in the week ahead, staying connected. May these times remind us of how very precious this beloved community is. We need one another. Whether together or apart, may we stay very close. And now, in the spirit of invocation, let's join in singing Sanctuary. The words are printed in your order of service and in the chat.
be a living sanctuary for you.
Some of us come today with heavy hearts. We open our hearts to you.
We have one candle of sorrow this morning, the candle of sorrow from the Arlington Street community on the death of actor Paul Reubens, best known for his beloved character, Pee Wee Herman. His Saturday morning television show in the late 1980s was a loving homage to the previous generation's children's television shows like Howdy Doody Show, Captain Kangaroo, The Mickey Mouse Club, and Kukla, Fran, and Ollie. His playhouse was a joy-filled community with a talking chair, boombox robot, beatnik puppet band, and multiracial friends and neighbors who encouraged people to always remain kind and maybe a little mischievous. With more than a wink and a nod to his fans in the LGBT communities, he delivered a Christmas special in 1989 that became an instant classic with a guest list of stars that included Cher, Katie Lang, Dinah Shore, Whoopi Goldberg, Zsa Zsa Gabor, Little Richard, Oprah, and of course Grace Jones singing The Little Drummer Boy, and Charo playing guitar while singing Feliz Navidad. Paul continued to make his joy-inspiring art in this century by bringing Pee-wee to Broadway and Netflix. Pee Wee Herman delighted generations of children and adults with his positivity, whimsy, and belief in the importance of kindness. Paul Reubens taught us what a true original is. Paul Reubens, Pee Wee Herman. Presente.
Open my heart to be a sanctuary, all made holy, loved and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
Some of us come today in joy. We share your joy.
A candle of joy from the Arlington Street community. Joy that the Fifth Circuit Court struck down Mississippi's lifetime voting ban for people convicted of certain crimes, a Jim Crow-era law designed to target Black voters. It disenfranchises more people than made the difference in the 2019 governor's race. And a final candle of joy, also from the Arlington Street congregation. Joy at the election victories of Tennessee State Representatives Justin Jones of Nashville and Justin Pearson in Memphis. The two state representatives were expelled earlier this year by the GOP for protesting in support of gun safety. Jones addressed the State House Speaker who led the expulsion hearings by saying, "Well, Mr. Speaker, the people have spoken. The find out era of politics is just beginning. See you August 21st for special session."
Open my heart to be a sanctuary, all made holy, loved and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Open my heart to be a sanctuary, all made holy, loved and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary
for all the sorrows and all the joys we hold in our hearts, we light a silent candle to remember and to rejoice. May the peace of this sanctuary enter into our hearts as we share a quiet moment together, breathing our prayers for ourselves, for one another, for our country, and for the world. Amen.
Let's join now in saying together the affirmation and covenant of this beloved spiritual community. The words are printed in your order service and in the chat. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is our gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to speak our truths in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de nuestra congregación, y el servicio es nuestro regalo. Esto es a lo que nos comprometemos, convivir en paz, hablar nuestras verdades con amor, y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. Our next hymn is number 318 in the gray hymnal and in the chat, We Would Be One. Let's rise in body, rise in spirit, and sing together, number 318, We Would Be One.
We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other, to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow, a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service. With love and justice, strive to make us free.
This summer, in fact, just up until Friday morning, I interned as a chaplain at a hospital in northern New England. In this setting, I learned how to accompany people during times of distress. I learned how to be witness to people in pain, in discomfort, in uncertainty. My days were full of entering hospital rooms and engaging in conversation with people to see how they were managing with an experience anywhere on a spectrum of minor inconvenience to life-changing event. There was a lot to hold during these visits with people I did not know just moments before. Besides a name and some basic demographic data, I did not know who I was going to encounter. I did not know what truly made up the person or people on the other side of a door. And each day felt like balancing the beauty of the individual in front of me and the contrasting human-made systems that surrounded us. Systems that endlessly seemed to be designed to work for itself and not for the humans within it. And that hurt. And it hurt to understand more and be so consistently reminded of the pain created by systems. Systems that can use labels like health and care. It hurt because around me, the people seemed to care so deeply, but our systems seemed so able to neutralize our efforts. Yet as my time went on as a chaplain intern, I came to appreciate an aspect of the work that I truly did not expect. And this was speaking with people in the hospital who hold entirely, wildly different views than I do. With a badge that boldly stated spiritual care underneath my name, the difference was often about religion or faith and how we make meaning. And there is one person from this summer that sticks out to me. When I entered his room, he was sitting in one of those well-padded lounge chairs, his legs extended out in front of him, the hospital gown he was wearing situated neatly around his upper body, a blanket covered his lap, and the tray table was pulled up over him. I do not recall why he was in the hospital, but he was there, and I was there as well. And he was so excited when I came into his room and announced that I was from the spiritual care department. His face lit up, a smile appeared. "Oh," he exclaimed, "spiritual care." Now, I should let you know, this was not a common experience. Vermont is one of the least religious states in the country, and telling someone you are from spiritual care was usually greeted with a confused look. Now, as a UU, a confused look seems to me spiritual. But trust me that the confusion I generally saw was not what I would describe as spiritual. Yet this guy, he was not confused. He was excited. And he began to share some details about the network of support he had within his religious community. And this involved a lot of prayer. So I mentioned how important having support is, and I mentioned how glad I was to hear how much support he had. And then there was a shift. After this initial excitement, he got curious. He got curious and asked me who I was, and specifically, what religion am I? And so I responded, I am a Unitarian Universalist. And his response was, so what does a Unitarian believe? And well, isn't that a great question? What does a Unitarian believe? I didn't correct him and say, actually, it's Unitarian Universalist. It is two denominations that joined together in 1961, and respecting both of those traditions is very important in my eyes. No, I didn't say that because I didn't want to confuse him more. I let that slide. And now, we're going to take a pause in this story here because I want to move us from my perspective to just outside of it, so we can see both people in this dynamic. But more than seeing both people, let's focus on the space between them, a space being co-created. Very much alive in this moment is the early construction of the third component. This is a concept Howard Thurman preached on in 1958 at Marsh Chapel, about 2 miles west of here on Comm Ave. And Thurman offered that the space between this third component is what exists in between me and you. It exists in between two or more people, two or more groups. The third component is the spirit of life, of existence in the space between. As I understand it, the third component is inherently neutral, and its neutrality shifts into a long and wide spectrum of emotions, labels, judgment, appreciations. Ever changing, this third component is, ever changing, just like you, just like me, just like existence all around us. Now, of course, there's this why to this change. Why does the third component shift from an inherent neutrality to something more positive or negative, more known or unknown? And part of this reason, the part that I can comprehend, is that we place into the third component part of ourselves. We construct the third component from the resources we have within. We co-create with a knowledge internal to ourselves and place it, some of it, outside of ourselves. This co-creation of the space between can appear in all manners of ways. This can mean offering vulnerability, like when I share an honest response to "How are you today?" with a close friend. This can mean embracing a bias, like when I assume how I might be perceived by those around me. This can mean holding back my thoughts so as not to even go near conflict with another person. Co-creating the space between can also be incredibly lovely and sweet and innocent, like when the barista notices you coming into a coffee shop and makes your usual order before you even get to the counter. Co-creating the third component, this space between, is so incredibly expansive of a topic, but at the core of this co-creating is knowing how you are doing this, knowing what action or inaction you are taking with another person. The third component is not one-sided. The requirement of co-creation signifies the communal nature of it. And I believe paying attention to the third component, this space between, is one way to address loneliness and isolation, which the Surgeon General has declared an epidemic in this country. The intention we can bring to the space between is vital to bridging disconnection. But disconnection can be a thick wall to build a bridge through. This is especially true when we only bring intention and practice to the third component with those people we agree with. If we already know we have a connection, the space between is easy to balance. Co-creating with someone we don't know, now that takes work. And if you're like me, we can easily put up barriers when engaging with people we don't know. And we do this, I think, because we don't know if it is safe. I do this because I'm not sure bringing my queer self into a conversation with another person will be safe. But what I found, especially this summer as a chaplain intern, is that being known by another is not a unique concern. We, as a society, seem to bring intention to co-creating barriers, more intention to co-creating barriers than co-creating a bridge and that space between. We do bring intention to the third component but it's an intention to co-create something of disconnect instead of a loving kindness that bridges. Our world is getting ever more siloed, and we need to break out of those barriers we impose on ourselves. The singer Brandi Carlile has a phrase in one of her songs. The song is "Broken Horses," and the line is, "Tethered in wide open spaces." Tethered in wide open spaces. This is the image that I see when it comes to loneliness in our society. We tether ourselves so resolutely with so much certainty that sometimes there are incredibly wide open spaces we do not explore. Looking at the Unitarian Universalist denomination, for example, we might tether ourselves so much to the concept that ours is a non-creedal religion that we might feel it impossible, as I've sometimes experienced as a chaplain in a hospital room, to say, "This is what I believe." We might be tethered to a concept of religion, for example, and will redefine our denomination to keep it separate from other religions. And we might be tethered to a concept of prayer in which we do not engage with prayer because we think it might suggest negating our human agency. My friends, we are tethered in wide open spaces. And I wonder how we might find a way to untie some convictions and reposition our relationships so that the space between is accessible. And now let us get back to the man in the hospital who asked me, "What does a Unitarian believe?" I must admit, I gave a very vague answer. And this vague answer was thoroughly and delightfully analyzed and processed by my cohort of chaplain interns. And for this, I am grateful. Because sharing the experience with my colleagues meant I got to rethink how I would answer that question. And this is how I would do it. First, I would say that not all Unitarian Universalists believe the same thing. There's no creed. So what I can share in this moment is just what I believe. And perhaps this would be helpful. Perhaps this would create connection. And I tell him that I believe deeply, oh so deeply, in an interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. And what this means to me is that our relationships matter. Our relationships with each other, our relationships with ourselves, our relationships with everything. These all matter. And it's how we tend to these relationships where we either find meaning or place meaning. And for me, this meaning is the third component, that sacred space between us made up of what is within us. And we get to co-create this third component. We get to co-create it endlessly. In fact, from my view, all of existence is balancing third components amongst all of the rest of existence. We are interdependent. This interdependence is where I can most assuredly point to and recognize the spirit of life at play. So thank you for co-creating with me today.
I have to tell you that Kyle's sermon topic wasn't the easiest to pick music for. But I've chosen some music that I think really communicates opening yourself up and being vulnerable to others. One of these days I'll turn to water, fall from a cloud into the heat, roll down the gutter past the window, land in a puddle at your feet. One of these days you'll get distracted. One of these days our eyes will meet, and I'm dreaming wide awake, filled and drained, dreaming wide awake, unrestrained, floating, fainting, painting palaces and trying. Watch how the wind is rushing through me. Look how the winter turns to spring. If I can burst the clouds just breathing, who knows what else my heart might bring. Everyone's screaming, screaming, grow up. Funny how I don't feel a thing, for I'm dreaming wide awake, cursed and God, dreaming wide awake, growing wild, reaching, yearning, burning, uncontrolled and crying, crying, crying. This is how the eyes of the world are opened. This is how the sun burns through the mist. When one strong hand settles in beside you, you watch his fingers blossom from his fist. And suddenly you understand the reason and the reasons you exist. And you're dreaming, dreaming, bursting, shaking, tilting, quaking, breaking promises and flying, flying.
Thank you, Daniel and Young. Arlington Street is entirely self-sustaining. It's up to us, and our generosity continues undiminished. Thank you for your commitment to our staff, our building, and our beloved spiritual community. Each Sunday, we share our collection plate with a partner in our mission of love, service, justice, and peace. During the summer months, our Share the Plate offerings are saved to use for future local emergencies and to help rescue and rebuilding efforts following natural and unnatural disasters, amplifying our impact around the world. Thank you for your generosity. This summer, Rich and I have managed to get away 3 Sundays. In June, we visited Dallas for my nephew's high school graduation. Later that month, we were in Pittsburgh for the General Assembly of our denomination. And in July, we spent a weekend camping in Provincetown. Next month, we'll be heading to Lake Como for my other nephew's wedding. None of this would have been possible without the help of our wonderful tech team. Sandy, Kevin, Michael, Keith, Frank, Marie, and Heidi have all been part of making sure that we have solid coverage to bring great summer services both here in the sanctuary and on Zoom. I took a look at summer attendance in the years just before the pandemic. We used to average somewhere between 50 and 60 people each week. This morning, we have 30 here in the sanctuary and another about 50 or 60 on Zoom. During the week, another 50 or so will view video recordings of today's worship service and the sermon on YouTube. Your generosity has made it possible for us to bring all this beautiful music, meaning-making sermons, and transformational power of love to so many outside these walls. As I think about the past few years, it's easy to be extremely grateful for what has happened during that time. We have learned and grown a new way of worshiping together. And each week, when I see everyone waving and sending love to each other, both here in the sanctuary and in the Hollywood Squares on Zoom, I am very glad, very grateful to be a part of this beloved spiritual community. Please take a moment now to join me in giving to our beloved spiritual community and supporting all the good work happening in our good name by filling our virtual collection plate. And to give online or text your gift, go to aseboston.org. You can Venmo at Arlington Street or scan the QR code in the order of service. Or you can mail a check to the church or use the envelopes in the pews, which can be handed to me or to any of the ushers after the service. Thank you for your generosity.
If I told you now that I didn't have the answers, that I didn't know the reasons, that I didn't hold the key, if I told you now that I couldn't say for certain, that I wouldn't break my promise, could you bear to look at me? If I told you now that in spite of my persistence and my confident demeanor, I am more and more in doubt. If I told you now, would you smile with understanding? Would you burn with disappointment? Or would you turn and turn me out? If I told you now, I suspect you still might say we've gone too far to change or push away the tide. Would you close us down, or would I get extra points because I tried? If I tried. If I told you now, and I'm not about to tell you, but in case I chose to mention things I know you won't allow, would it hurt less later if I told you now? If I told you now that we're never really safe from all the fires we set or debts we have to pay, would you hold me now? So at least for this, for here, I know you'd stay. If you'd stay. If I told you now, it would be for your protection, 'cause I'm sure I'll disappoint you, though I can't imagine how. Does it make me better if I told you now? Would you make me better if I told you now?
Beautiful. If you'd like more Arlington Street in your week, please go to aseboston.org. There are weekly gatherings in the Zoom room for loving kindness, meditation, poetry, yoga, and writing. Every Wednesday at 4 o'clock, Reverend Kim and Reverend Beth host an online tea party. All are welcome. Much more information and Zoom room links are at aseboston.org. To attend any of them, you don't have to be a member, you don't have to turn on your video or talk if you don't want to, and they're all free. All are always welcome. Following the service, everyone is welcome to join the virtual coffee hour. If you'd like to participate, please answer yes to the breakout room invitation that will appear on your screen. If you're here in the sanctuary, you'll need to go to the Zoom room as the Postlude ends. Thanks to all of you who joined in today's service and to all those who made it possible. Remember, we're all in this together. Our closing hymn is number 311 in the gray hymnal and in the chat. Let It Be a Dance. This is one that we don't sing too often, although once you hear it, I think you'll probably think we probably should sing it more often. So Young is gonna play it through once, just so we hear the melody, and then Daniel will lead us in song. Please rise in body, rise in spirit, and sing together.
Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend. And like a willow with the wind, let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. A child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong, then nothing's right. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance.
Before our benediction, I invite those in the Zoom room to please reach out your hands and touch the sides of your square. And those of you in the sanctuary, please raise your hands and palms out. Let's send loving kindness to the people to your left and to your right. Send loving kindness to the person on either side of you and to the people on either side of them. Send out love into this beloved spiritual community and feel it coming back to you. Love is the spirit of this congregation. And now for our benediction, I invite you to put your hands over your heart and namaste. I bow to the divine in you. When we bring intention to the space between us, we bring intention to what we co-create. This is the work of a justice-loving people, the work of sharing ourselves, of sharing love. Let us keep this faith, beloveds, and pass it on. The service begins when the service ends. Bless your hearts. Amen.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine.
please visit ascboston.org for more information about this historic Unitarian Universalist congregation. Arlington Street Church, gathered in love and service for justice and peace.